17 Reasons People Aren't Listening to You on Inc.com, that's INC.com, is a good article. Since it is directed at the speaker, all 17 reasons expose flaws in our delivery. Anyone wanting to be an effective communicator should give them serious thought. However, sometimes the communication issue is because, we're not discriminating listeners. Today's Morning Minutes in the Bible on Throwback Thursday examines our failure to listen carefully. From Plain Talk Magazine, August 1982, Striving About Words by Robert F. Turner. A well-known preacher was closing his sermon with a plea concerning the sovereign grace of God. I think he had no more in mind than grace, but being familiar with the classic theological expression, I wondered, momentarily, if he had embraced a doctrine that denies free moral agency. That's what word association can do for us. If you are well read in the John Wesley concept of the second work of grace, or his sanctification, you may want to censor many of the songs we commonly sing. Their nomenclature is there. Why not, since they wrote many of our hymns? But we cannot fairly charge all who sing the words with accepting the doctrine they were intended to convey. Blissfully ignorant of the original thought, we may assign some poetic meaning and worship in spirit and truth. What I'm saying is, semantics plays a big and frequently unrecognized part in some of our issues. Multiple reports from a recent debate can be summed as, they believed the same thing on most points, but said it differently and refused to budge a syllable. Some have adopted terminology from Calvinistic material they read and insist upon saying it that way, even though careful examination shows they do not accept the ideas the Calvinists expressed in those ways. On the other hand, brethren have developed their own way of saying it, and woe to him who changes words. True, our terminology may indicate what we are feeding into our mind. We may be unaware of what we are saying to a Presbyterian or a humanist because they hear our words with the connotation their writers have given. All the more reason to beware the language of Ashdod. But sometimes our way of saying things is more Church of Christ than scriptural, as church terms are not infallible. Is it too much to ask that we compare ideas tested via other words before jumping on one another? If one says we are justified by faith, does he mean faith only? Or does he mean what Paul meant, Romans 5, verse 1? We might ask, what do you mean by sovereign grace? And discover he just said it because he read it somewhere and had no particular doctrine in mind. The trigger-happy writer shoots at each rattle in the bush because he is inexperienced, lacks cool, or is out to get someone. There is no excuse for the latter, and he could correct the former by applying Matthew 7, verse 12. Fight error, but strive not about words to no profit, but to the subverting of the hearer. 2 Timothy 2, verse 14. And that, ladies and gentlemen, never changes. Which is why Samuel was a breath of fresh air, or in his case, God's word, among people who had quit listening because they hadn't been hearing God's word for a long time. 1 Samuel 3, verses 19 through 21. Well, thank you for watching and listening to Morning Minutes in the Bible on Throwback Thursday. Until next time, this is James McClenny hoping you have a great day.